All right. So today's date, September 5th, 2018. I'm Will Buchanan, and this is how the frack we got here. Thank you guys for all watching. As I said before, as you know, my name is Will Buchanan, the host with the most. And on how the frack we got here, we do like to take the current week and the week before and just try to make sense of it all in this wonderful ride we call life. So that being said, before we get started, this is an adult podcast, which means of adult nature. It means adult content language may be shared or used. So viewer discretion advised. So if you have young viewers or do you not like offensive languages or truth, now would be the time to actually turn off the podcast and go from there. Aside from everybody else that stayed, welcome. So I do know sometimes when we start this podcast, it is literally like, what the fuck has Donald Trump done now? I am almost proud to say that we're not going to start with Agent Orange today. That's right. Trump is going to get talked to eventually, but let's go with the lightning rod. And I said, I love this because I love this and I want to play this commercial first because number one, I believe this commercial is awesome. Number two, it's bound to tick people off. So let me go ahead and get this out the way first because, like I said, I think this commercial is awesome. You've probably already seen it today, but for those who haven't seen it, this is the Nike commercial.
If people say your dreams are crazy, if they laugh at what you think you can do, good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment. Don't try to be the fastest runner in your school or the fastest in the world. Be the fastest ever. Don't picture yourself wearing OBJ's jersey. Picture OBJ wearing yours. Don't settle for homecoming queen or linebacker. Do both. Lose 120 pounds and become an Iron Man after beating the brain tumor. Don't believe you have to be like anybody to be somebody. If you're born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer for the national team at age 16. Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football. Play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Now that is wonderful. That is beautiful. That is inspirational. And you know what? I'm about this close to undoing all these locks and throwing it out. Because you know why? And also, before I get too excited, let me explain. So as you can see from the commercial, and if you've been under a rock, Colin Kaepernick has now been labeled as the face of Nike in their newest Just Do It campaign. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be sitting there saying, but Nike, really? Nike? But he's against the national anthem. He doesn't stand for the troops. He doesn't do any of the stuff that you've been told by Fox News and other right-wing people. Now, understand, I am all for the idea of discussing taking a knee. But understand, as I've played in my previous podcast about the reason why Colin Kaepernick takes a knee. Because he did speak with Green Beret Nate Boyer, who at the time was talking to Kaepernick because he was sitting down. So let's point something out here, because I think that's the part to where a lot of people don't understand. You didn't protest when Cap was sitting down. You protested when Cap took a knee. Big ass difference. Because here's the funny part. When Cap was sitting down on the bench, nobody cared. The only problem that came to mind was because he took a knee. And when he took a knee, that's when everybody's like, but he took a knee during the national anthem? Really? I mean, the blasphemy. Why? I mean, does he not know you're supposed to stand? Does he not know you're supposed to have your hand over your heart? Does he not know that you're supposed to? I know, Angie. I'm just saying. I'm not getting sidetracked, Angie, but I get inspired when I see Colin Kaepernick with the fro. I'm thinking straight Boondocks. But again, it is amazing to me. And in this debate, it really shouldn't be a debate, because if you really think about it, the rights that you have in this country should have already ended that argument. Like I said, nobody, you're not less American for not standing up for the national anthem. I mean, even at games now that I go to, I take a knee. I mean, whether it's football games that I see for family or just sporting events that I go to, I'll take the knee. The anthem doesn't got to do shit with me. And that is my right as an American. I don't have to stand for the anthem. Doesn't make me any less American than the person who does. It is a personal choice. The flag is nothing more than a piece of cloth, because if you sit there and have that much respect for the flag wouldn't be on every cutoff shirt, on every bikini top, on every blanket, on everybody that wears 4th of July stuff. If you respect the flag that much, it should remain a flag. It shouldn't remain actually clothing or symbolic gestures, aside from the fact that it's a flag. But for the simple fact of the matter is, and I've said it before, and I've said and not to bring it to a point, because when I said in my Offense podcast, a lot of people get too tied up in the misguided or fake patriotism that you have toward a flag. You can have all the allegiance you want to, but again, it is your right to either stand up or take a knee. But you shouldn't be judged on either one. But again, there's a deeper meaning to that. And I said before, and I'll be honest, I was one of those ones when from the beginning this all started, that when Cap started this path he was on, I was the first one to say, okay, it's a little suspect. He wasn't playing for the 49ers. He was actually benched. It was suspect at best. But I also sat there and said, if he is serious about doing this, then let's see how far it goes. And of course, others did join him, and others did drop out, because when the money gets low, the hungriness show. And let's be honest, a lot of those players that join Cap, at least 4 or 5 of them are not playing in the NFL right now, or playing overseas, or doing something else. So the thing that I don't get is just that with those players, like I'm not going to name no names, but you can go back and see who turned around when they were protesting and said, well, I can find a different thing to do as long as I get a job. You know what that tells me? The hungriness show. When that money gets low, you get to see the true side of people. Your true nature, when you are in need of something, your true nature comes out. Now, either you gonna bunker down and ride that out, or you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do to get what you need, or to get where you need to be, or what have you. There's only 2 types of people in this world that when your back is against the wall and you ain't got no options, you're one of 2 people. And for a lot of these NFL players, they ain't about and me and my friend Thomas, Sir Thomas, who's been on these podcasts before, we've always said it best. When you come from ramen, and I mean that ramen, that 25 cents a packet or $2 for the entire box that you see in grocery stores, We're talking that ramen that you had to live off of for a week, 2 weeks. We're talking about that kind of struggle. That when you are basically in that status, you get elevated to where your money is stacking. You can go to Cheesecake Factory, Ruth Chris. You can be like Vince Young and go to the Cheesecake Factory every week and blow $5,000 because you know why? Money's still coming in. That's cool. Your life has changed. You're in a different tax bracket. Everything is all gravy train with biscuit wheels until you put your belief forward. When your beliefs go in front of your money and your money disappears, let's see how much you lean on that belief. And that's the truth. And I said a lot of people, and I can't fault before I go too far off in this. I said before, I can't fault all NFL players. Is it my wish that every black NFL player and every other non-minority player who believes in us would stop playing football for 5 weeks? That would be a hellified impact, because we, as far as us as black people, we make up close to 70% of the NFL. So if 70% of the NFL decided not to play for a few Sundays, there'll be a hit taken somewhere. But at the same time, and Angie, you're right. When chicks wear flat bikinis, they piss on in the pool. That's good to know. That's something I know now, so I appreciate that. But not to get too sidetracked off this, like I said, Nike selecting Kaepernick as the head of the Nike Just Do It campaign for 2019, I think is beautiful. And a lot of people, before we go into the next video, because I think it's interesting with the next video, but I will say this: a lot of people, and I've actually been a part of a certain debate today where I had saw where a person was saying, well, I understand why Kaepernick is such a big deal. He was a crappy player in the NFL. And I'm not gonna name names because they're not here to defend themselves. But the other individual kind of went off the rails talking about, calling the person out, saying he's a racist and all this crap. And when I was in the debate, my thing was I want to understand where the guy's coming from. And of course, when he sat there and said, he's like, look, I mean, from an NFL standpoint, I don't see why he's the face of Nike. And I had to sit there and I listened to him. I wanted to listen because I keep saying not everybody, when they're against something, has a bad point. They may be going off a different perspective and they just may be lacking information. But we have to be able to, as much as when we're having these debates and open arguments, we have to be able to talk with someone at the same time listen. Too many people these days are just talking to another person and not listening what the other person has to say. So when you have two people just constantly talking and nobody's listening, how the hell can you have a decent conversation? And so, and I mean, the long story short, the guy was like, when I pointed out the fact of, well, you got to understand, he put his beliefs forward instead of the NFL. And yes, the NFL at the time was, instead of being neutral in the whole debate, took a position. And yes, the owners didn't want to take a backlash, so they blackballed him. But in the same time, his philanthropy and his activism is the reason why Nike selected him. And Vaughn, thanks, Vaughn, for watching, by the way. And Vaughn, yeah, you got a point. I feel like Nike's trolling us. Let me explain about Nike before we go into the next video. Nike may have no business ever does something unless they're on the right side of the paycheck. Let me explain. So Nike knew if they made Colin Kaepernick the head of their Just Do It campaign, they knew that they were risking the fact of the matter is, we're going to take a controversial figure and we're going to allow him to use his platform. At the same time, we are going to align ourselves with that platform. Because you know why? Because there's money in belief. And what I mean by that is, say for instance, that Nike went against Cap. that Nike, instead of Nike selecting Cap, let's say Nike selected a guy who is all-American, apple pie, Chevy trucks, blonde, big-titted women wearing American flag bikinis, hot dogs, everything Americana you can think of. At the end of it all, he's standing, hand over his chest, flag right there, flag wafting in the breeze. And at the end of it all, it says, "United we stand." Now, if Nike had put a commercial out like that, could you imagine the backlash that would happen because everybody would now be against Nike? How dare Nike take a stand? How dare Nike take a stand saying that we should all stand up for a flag? How dare they put this pro-right agenda in front of everybody? Hence the fallout. Nike takes a hit financially. I mean, they're never going to be bankrupt. Nike's too big of a corporation to never be bankrupt. Let's just be honest. I know there's too big to fail to be out there, but Nike's never too. Nike at that point is such a global name, a global and international name, that it's just never going to fail. Not when you have so many avenues. At the same time, they have so many players that they support. I mean, Kaepernick was always supported by Nike. He was getting paid well past his contract in the NFL. I mean, you got to think, Nike still pays Michael Jordan. Nike still pays Shaq. Nike still pays Kobe. Nike, of course, pays LeBron, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Tiger Woods. I can keep going down the line. I keep getting sidetracked. They even, you know what? If you really want to get really far back on it, Nike still pays Penny Hardaway. For anybody my age to follow the NBA, Penny Hardaway's career started with Shaq with the Orlando Magic. So again, Nike still pays all its former players. So again, all their players, if you go throughout the years, all of Nike's, all the face of Nike, aside from maybe that one little bleak period, have been African American. So what does Nike do in the situation? And Vaughn, you said it best. Aside from all Nike has to do is drop the Jordan Retro 3s, profits back in one day. You're right. Jumpman is probably one of Nike's most successful brands since ever. As long as they make Jumpmans, as long as Jumpmans are still being produced and recreated and produced again, Nike will never go out of business. You're exactly right. But you also point out one other thing: controversy sells. Eric Bischoff, one of the greatest managers in professional wrestling, said it best: controversy creates cash. It's true. Now, I'm not saying Nike didn't do the right thing in making Kaepernick the face of the Just Do It campaign. I'm just saying not everything Nike does is moral bound. They just see where the paycheck is and basically go right for it. Because I guarantee you, if there was more money on the opposite side of the United We Stand debate, trust me, they'll go that route. They took what they basically did was looked at the risk versus the fallout versus the profit. And they realized the profit was more than the risk, was worth more than the risk. So of course they took it. But I'm not saying Nike wasn't wrong in taking a stand, because some corporations are actually now taking a stand on a lot of issues. So I can't knock it for that. But let's also not just think that Nike's just jumping all in because, they found a conscience. But aside from that, there is another part of this. So like I said, the video, I'm happy that Cap is finally getting his due, because the man truly believed in what he did. I mean, I think at one point, like I said, he believed in what he said. He walked the walk, he talked the talk. I can't knock the man for that. So it is amazing to me that people are still saying, well, he's still doing this to get attention. No, he's doing this to get money. No. If you really think about it, has everything he has done, donated a million plus of his own money to charities. He's mentored. He's went to different areas. He's done everything else. If you want to compare something, he did everything LeBron did short of creating his own school. And don't get me wrong, LeBron should be congratulated for his out-promise school. He became bigger than basketball. Now, granted, I didn't like him as a player because he flopped too much, but as an individual, I got to respect the man, just like I respect Cap. However, and in true, how can I put this? In true Caucasian fashion, of course, from that video, when it was announced about Kaepernick becoming the face of the Just Do It campaign, this ensued.
Thing on tonight, in the age of Trump, we've seen the rise of a new conservative phenomenon of wrecking your own stuff to, quote, own the libs. It's a silly little refrain that basically means, I will show you, liberals. Sometimes it's a little thing like canceling your Netflix account because the company signed a deal with the Obamas. Bye-bye, I'm a Hulu gal now. But that's nothing compared to the owners of Yeti coolers, who were so upset when it was reported the company cut ties with the NRA, they did this.
Hashtag Yeti. Hashtag NRA. Hashtag AR-15.
There goes that Yeti. There goes that Yeti. Last year, we saw conservatives destroying their own K-Cup machines, and it was because Keurig had stopped advertising on the Sean Hannity show. Today, they're all over the internet sending flyers to their Nikes. What is it this time, you ask? Well, perhaps it's got something to do with this guy becoming the new face of the company. That's thing two in 60 seconds. Over the holiday weekend, Nike announced that quarterback Colin Kaepernick would be the face of the 30th anniversary of its Just Do It ad campaign. Kaepernick shared the ad on Twitter, which is a black and white close-up of his face with the slogan, "Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything." The backlash was almost immediate. Hashtag boycott Nike was trending on Twitter, and images of people burning their shoes, which gross, or cutting the famed Nike swoosh off their socks went viral. Of course, this is because Kaepernick sparked nationwide debate for kneeling during the national anthem to protest police violence and racial injustice. And ever since, he has been unable to get a spot on an NFL team for some reason. He's faced death threats and has repeatedly been attacked by the president, who just today in the interview with Daily Caller called the Nike ad, quote, a terrible message. A terrible message, again, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
All right, so again, I'm sorry, I can't. All right, sorry guys, it looks like we froze, which is nice. It's always nice when we say something that Trump had said, and the next thing we know, the screen freezes. So I apologize, guys. We're gonna muddle through it is what we're gonna do. But again, it is amazing to me where I'm sorry, only white people. This is an only white people thing. Only white people will sit there and protest. Like, okay, keep in mind, you saw where it showed all in, because there were about I want to say about a year back where Netflix had inked a deal with the Obamas about creating content. Everybody's like, oh, they're giving black people money. They're giving this president, because they won't say monkey. You're giving him money? Oh no, cancel my Netflix account right now. What if Hulu did the same thing? Then you're screwed. I mean, aside from Netflix and Hulu, what you got left? Crackle? So it amazes me so, where just like Keurig, because Keurig was stopped giving discounts for the NRA. I think it was also Yeti, which is another one they showed, also stopped giving discounts to the NRA. And what do these people do? I'm going to destroy my own shit. That'll show them. No. I mean, it's been a meme so many places that they got your money. You're just destroying your own stuff to do what? What kind of? Okay, here's the thing. If we protest, they say it's dumb. You destroy your own stuff that you paid your hard-earned money for, and you think you've accomplished something. Who's actually the smarter one in the group? The ones that are protesting to get attention, the ones destroying their own stuff. I'm going to go with the ones that were protesting smart. But it amazes me so that Cap was made as the face. And it's so interesting, they don't show the wrestler who was born without legs. And right now is in collegiate. He's a collegiate wrestler now. That they were just showing a kid that was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. He started wrestling at his school. No legs. This kid was taking down kids half his size with no legs. That's a bad motherfucker. And then again, they showed, and I apologize, they showed the first U.S. Muslim boxer who was a woman. I should have got her name. I apologize. If she ever watches this podcast, madam, I am so sorry. I should learn your name because I think it's awesome that a Muslim woman is taking progressive steps in following a sport, especially a sport like boxing and fencing, which I should know her name as well. So again, I apologize. I promise I will be better about this in future podcasts. I should come up with the names because I should believe that those people should be given the honors due for taking steps and breaking barriers. So I apologize. But again, the whole idea of that actual commercial was showing that, simply put, believe in something, even if you have to sacrifice. But if you believe in it and you sacrifice everything to achieve it, then do it. Or like one of my favorite bodybuilders, C.T. Fletcher, used to say, it's only impossible till one crazy motherfucker comes along and does that shit. It is still true. So it amazes me so that people still want to sit there and say, well, I'm going to cut off my Nike shorts or not my Nike socks. Or I thought to myself, what if Under Armour made Cap the face of their campaign? What if any sports drink like Gatorade or Powerade also made Cap the face? And like on a Facebook post I saw earlier this week, I reposted it under my Facebook page. I said, I wish, and it went. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. It said, I wish Ford would make Cap their spokesperson just to see one idiot light his F-150 on fire. I would pay money for that. I would pay money to watch that. To watch some idiot that sees Cap right next to a Ford F-150. Well, how dare they make Cap the face of Ford? You know what? I'm going to go outside and I'm going to light my truck on fire right now and I'm going to show Ford I'm a Dodge man. And, it won't. And that's why I tell people, you think it sounds crazy, but look at these people destroying products that they bought, destroying clothing that they purchased, destroying all of these things that literally make no sense to destroy, but you call it a protest. But then you can't understand why people can sit there and take a knee or walk toward their city hall and demand answers, but you say that's not protesting. But you don't understand. If you have an issue with that, but you don't have an issue with people destroy their stuff, you don't understand protests. And obviously you got money to destroy your stuff. So I don't know about you, but I'm not going to destroy my Xbox just because I don't like Fortnite. But you're right, Vaughn. Yeah, then it's no longer possible. And Nike is like, and yeah, Nike will. You're right, Vaughn. Nike is like, you can do whatever you want. You bought those motherfuckers, and it's true. It's like Nike at this point is like, you can destroy anything you want. You've already purchased it. We already got your money. And so it amazes me so. So yeah, Ford knows who sells the rebel flag. Well, you would think, because right now that's another part I was going to go into, where before I go into the next story, because not to go too far off from that, and this is kind of interesting as I bring this up, because I love, I love Shannon Sharp. I can't stand Stephen A. Smith because he was a guy who during his little tiffy on ESPN was suspended, came back and apologized, but he should have just stand on what he stood. Is a guy that doesn't follow his beliefs. But I give Shannon Sharp all the credit in the world because you know what? Despite his speech, and the guy's got big lips. He's got a big tongue. I got big lips. I got a big tongue. I know sometimes words don't form out of my mouth easy, but every time he sit there and go, Skip, come on now, Skip, come on, Skip. And I can't knock Shannon Sharp because he's got money, he's got a six pack, and he's on TV. I'm a brother trying to make it, so I'm not going to make fun of the man. But I will respect him on what he said in this spot. So let me bring this up, and hopefully it plays. So bear with me, guys.
All of the different reactions to this ad.
Some I'm surprised by, some I'm not very surprised by, Skip. But let's start from the top. President Trump, we knew he would have something to say if he needed a distraction. Now, Bob Woodward, you know him. He and Carl Bernstein, the Watergate situation, one of the foremost journalists in all of America. He's coming out with a book next year. They released some excerpts from the book that paints a very unflattering picture of President Trump. So and he knows this is always going to give him some cover. So he throws it out there, and boom, his base eats it up. So we're not surprised by what he said, and we're not surprised by why he said it. Now, the NFL, I'm a little bit more surprised by, Skip, because they mentioned Colin Kaepernick by name. And considering there's an ongoing lawsuit against them, I'm very surprised that they took the stance that they did. And then Jenny read a part of it, like the National Football League believe in dialogue, understanding, and unity. We embrace the role and responsibility of everyone involved with this game to promote meaningful, positive change in our community. It took Nike to get on board with Colin Kaepernick before you release a statement like this.
Yep.
Maybe it was a Fortune 500 company. Maybe it was one of your chief sponsors that maybe guilted you into this situation that you release a statement like this. Where was this statement in 2017, Skip? Where was this statement in 2016, Skip? Where was this statement in 2015, 2014? Or go back. No statement like this was released. Okay. Maybe you feel and be like, man, we can't get left behind on this situation.
Yep.
And then again, but what were they supposed to say, Skip? Is anybody against community? They can't come out and say we're against social change or injustice in America. We're against that. They can't say that. So I'm surprised that they finally mentioned Colin Kaepernick in a positive light, because for the longest time when you mentioned Colin Kaepernick, it was about the flag, it was about the anthem, it was about the protest, and it was in a negative light.
Yep.
This is the first time that I can recall, not saying that I have this thing down verbatim, but this is the first time I can recall in a very long time that the NFL has mentioned Colin Kaepernick in a very positive light. You see, Skip, in order for change to happen, it just doesn't happen. There has to be something that takes place. If you look at the civil rights, blacks wanted rights. They wanted to be able to vote. They wanted fair housing. They wanted fair civil liberties, rights. So they had to fight for it. And people protested. You remember the Little Rock Nine? It was about 9 blacks that tried to integrate an all-white high school. There were people fighting to keep them out. Gay and lesbians, they wanted the right. They wanted rights. They wanted to have the right to marry. People fought against that. They fought for it. You go back, women's suffrage, they wanted the right to vote. They like, hold on, wait a minute. I can do what a man can do. I should be able to get the same salary. I should be able to vote and do things. They fought for it. The very country we live in, Skip, Bayless was founded on what? It was on protest. And Britain was so upset that America wanted to do things their own way. We went to war with them. Protest needs to be uncomfortable. It needs to get people's attention, because just to say, you know what, eventually they'll get tired of us treating us like this, and it'll stop. Well, it won't. You got to stand up for what you believe in and what you think is right. And when you stand up, there'll be sometimes that people want to sit down or want to keep you down, but be undeterred. And that's what we're seeing with the Colin Kaepernick situation. Nike, now all of a sudden, people that didn't even think about the shoes that they wear, Skip. Now all of a sudden they got a problem with Nike. I ain't wearing Nike. Okay, you burn your shoes. You gonna burn that jersey too? Because guess what? Guess who's the official apparel outfitter of the NFL, Skip Bayless? All the jerseys, all the pants, all the members, all that stuff that you see, Nike. So you gonna burn all that? Probably not. But that's you. You do what you feel you want to do. I just don't get it sometimes, Skip. I mean, think about, and it's very clear now. It's not about no flag. It's not about anything. It's about the injustices that Colin Kaepernick's fighting for, and you got people fighting against that. You know what? I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see how many people are going to boycott the Catholic Church. Because they got something going on, Skip, that's pretty big over there too. I ain't heard anybody talking about boycott that. Have you, Skip? Oh, I haven't either. But we'll debate that another day in time.
I hope not.
Well, so I have to give it to Mrs. really Bond, Danny Thop. I have to give it to you know what? I have to give it to Danny Thop. No, I'm not gonna do that to that man because he brought up some wonderful points. This is what I say about what the NFL is doing, and the NFL. He's right. This is the first time the NFL has actually put Cap's name in a positive light since Cap came out and said, "Yeah, you guys are basically blackballing me. There's no other reason that no other team wants to pick me up." Except the simple fact of the matter is I spoke my mind and I will not be quiet. He's not going to pull a Dak Prescott, we want you to stand, boy. Because, Dak Prescott, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you have to agree with me. Dak Prescott told the company line. Aaron Rodgers was probably the one dude I'll give Aaron. Aaron came out and said, if you don't understand why he is doing what he is doing, then you're never going to understand the injustice, and that is a sign of your white privilege. Aaron Rodgers, a man who is this close to being invited to the cookout because he has shown some tendencies, but he gets it. Shannon Sharp gets it. The NFL is now coming around because they realize Nike's behind them. But Nike's not all morally, and I love how Shannon said it. Nike must have had somebody pushing on them to get behind Cap because they didn't initially get behind Cap when Cap started this pilgrimage. But all of a sudden now, the climate, the social, not the political climate, the social climate has changed. Because as much as a lot of us are waiting for another month and a half from now, and we're waiting for the primaries, we're waiting to sweep, and I'm hoping in November a lot of shit changes for our country. That's a whole nother topic. But this is Nike now seeing the winds of change and was like, let's get behind him. Controversy creates cash. And like Shannon also said, Shannon said it best from the top. You want to burn everything? Go right ahead. But are you going to burn the jersey? You gonna burn the shirts? You gonna burn the workout shirts? Your wife's tank tops? Your boxers? That all that team apparel owned by Nike. So you're gonna burn everything in spite of this protest. Again, not understanding what protest is, but you're going to burn everything Nike related. Go right ahead. At this point, some people might as well go the least left out path and just burn the house down because your house is full of it. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. Now, I'm not saying that the NFL will ever cave. No owner is ever going to be brave enough to reach out to Kaepernick. And I think at this point, Kaepernick is not that concerned with playing football ever again. Because I think he may have found, like I said, he may have found his calling. He may have found his path to where he can speak out and be an activist. And I hope he keeps on going because the brother has sat there and literally lived by the fact of staying true to his beliefs despite risking everything else. I can't knock. It is hard to disavow a person with that type of moral fiber to where they will follow their beliefs regardless of what happens to them, regardless of lucrative deals and anything of that nature. He's willing to walk that path of fire. I gotta give him credit for that. But switching gears from that, because like I said, if it was me, wait, Vaughn, why not give it to the homeless? All lives matter, right? No, sir. All lives matter and blue lives matter is bullshit. Just like Republicans saying they care about the military. Bullshit. You leave them drugged up, fucked up, and in a VA system that pretty much kills them. So every time I hear, what about all lives matter? If that's the case, all lives matter would be at every police shooting where a young black man was killed. They wouldn't be with Molly Tibbetts' family talking about how an illegal immigrant, killed their daughter when they don't want their daughter to be used as a political prop. So again, if all lives mattered and blue lives mattered, again, they were just as you know as well, Vaughn. They were just used for Black Lives Matter. And speaking of Black Lives Matter, I have no problem now telling people. See if I could put this forward. I have no problem telling people now because I finally found these bands, and I'm kind of happy I did because when I go out and about, people gonna know. People gonna know where I stand. But another thing before we go, but like I said, switching gears. Speaking of useless, how can I put this? I can't say useless. I think it's useless. But again, this is me just presenting the information as it is and letting you guys go from there. So another thing that happened, and there's no video on this, so I apologize. So if you didn't realize, Kim Kardashian, Kanye's hoe, I'm sorry, she's a hoe. Let's just call it what she is again meeting with Trump. She got to meet with Trump to request a pardon for a Clarksville prisoner. And here's the thing that I just don't get, because she's meeting with him to get this prisoner released who was basically for cocaine and trafficking laws. And apparently during his trial, he got life in prison, just to sum it up what you're seeing right there. But what's annoying about this whole thing is everybody, and I'm on the other side. And again, I am on the other side. Kim Kardashian went back for a woman and got her released. Now you're going back and you're getting this young man trying to get him released. Here's the problem I have with all this. Because if anybody was paying attention to the last time a bunch of preachers went up to Donald Trump and he wanted to talk about prison reform, and he wanted to talk about non-offenders not getting, non-offenders and those with less than felony crimes not getting jail time, and about doing rehab to actually help out with transitions. Remember all that, where all the preachers were around him and they were praising him as the most pro-black president that we've ever had, forgetting the fact that Obama was in there for almost a goddamn decade and apparently didn't do enough for black people, because some black people feel that way because he didn't come to your neighborhood and play Black Jesus to you. Yes, I am talking to you motherfuckers that said that shit. But again, we're going to talk about somebody who is famous for taking dick. Call it what it is. She's not famous for her business ideas. She's not famous for her business. That was her mom. Her mom set all this shit up in motion to where she is famous. But let's be honest, what she is famous for. You did not know who Kim Kardashian was till Ray J put a tape out and sold it off to Vivid. And next thing you know, we're all seeing this brother give her the subway footlong, and all of a sudden she's a celebrity now. But the thing about what kills me about this is not the reason why we're talking about her, Angie, is that for some odd reason, a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, she's trying. No, this is not trying. When a whole bunch of black men go up to Trump and Trump uses them for a photo op, and then a few weeks later turns around and pulls support for the prison reform that he told them that he was going to work on, that is bullshit. The fact that he has already met Kim Kardashian before he has met any of the black leaders. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Froze up again. It's like every time it's like if you mention Trump, everything freezes. So we're gonna sit there and go for that. But the thing about it is, what I'm saying is, prison reform is not going to happen with this president. And every time Kim Kardashian goes up to him, I feel like it's a stripper going to her favorite customer and asking him if he wants to go to the VIP room, right? Because no sex in the champagne room, no sex in the champagne room. If you listen to Chris Rock, you know what I'm talking about. But again, that's what it feels like, because the whole thing about it is, you're not going to get prison reform from someone who profits off prisons, which he does. Shoot, even in Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, which just like Diane Black, who thank God is not in office anymore, but unfortunately, Marsha Blackburn is still running for governor. That bitch, she profits off corporations that own prisons in Tennessee. Like I said, prison, if there's one thing the U.S. is number one in still, it's prisoner incarceration. We're like number one. We have China beat. Do you imagine the fact of the matter, for a land whose population is twice as big as ours, we have them beaten prisoner incarcerations? But it's true. But if she really cared, she would move in silence. No, she doesn't. She doesn't care. And that's, to be honest with you, Kim Kardashian doesn't care. Everything about her is spotlight, because that's her money. You know, keeping up with the Kardashians, her stupid makeup, clothing, what have you. All the sisters are like that. That whole entire family might as well just be labeled the Scandal family. Like we're on Family Feud, presenting the Scandal family, you know, especially with her mom. You know, like I said, Kris Jenner is by far the hardest working pimp on the West Coast. She's pimped out her whole family. I mean, what do you think was going to happen when Kylie and Kendall became legal? But even, you know, even Chris Rock says you have to offer a pussy with a business proposal sometimes. And I wouldn't be surprised. But again, going back to the whole idea of the fact that people are giving this woman credit for getting the other woman released, to me, is a photo op. Again, photo op. Trump wanted to sit there and go, I release you because I am benevolent. I am a benevolent dictator. So let me release one of you black people so I can gain favor. Now, I'm not saying, will he do the same thing with this young man? Probably not, because, well, he's black. At the same time, his celebrity friends, and that's the thing that kind of worries me. How the fuck can Kim Kardashian get that much access to a president when he won't even go to his own people who actually are trying to get him to work with shit? She kind of raised a little bit of a red flag if you get what I'm saying. But anyway, as far as getting prison reform, I don't think Kim Kardashian is the best person, because, like I said, it's almost like she's picking and choosing who she wants to help out or assist, instead of going to Trump and saying, why not just go ahead and just release those that don't need to be there? The non-violent, you know, no history or pattern of violence. Why are they there? It would be a whole lot easier just to go ahead and release them all. But you know, you have to answer to your private prisons. But I don't know. It's one of those things to where he could release them, but I just kind of feel like as he releases one, she keeps going back up there like, come on, daddy, you can release him. You know, she wants to play Sunshine. He's a dick. All right. Yeah, Trump is a dick. I'll say it best. I said, fuck that motherfucker. But again, we don't know. But speaking of Trump, which I'm going to go into, you know, some people can sit there and say that what I'm about to show next is going to be interesting, because they'll sit there and say, well, you know what? This would be the one thing that Trump actually got right. And trust me, when I play the video, you're going to understand why some people, because this was actually brought up to me. This wasn't actually something I researched today, but I did, after looking at this video, went back to go look at it. But pretty much, here's how it goes.
Focus on the economy today, and it is a bright spot for the president and the nation. Coming before cameras outside the White House, he announced a strong quarterly report promising even better numbers to come. He did promise during the campaign he would get GDP growth to 4%, and tonight it's there. Will it stay there? He says yes, but tonight a couple of factors that led to this, and it does involve American farmers. ABC's Terry Moran at the White House tonight.
The economy is soaring, and so is President Trump.
I am thrilled to announce that in the second quarter of this year, the United States economy grew at the amazing rate of 4.1%.
It's the best number since 2014. Americans are spending more, businesses are investing more. The Trump tax cuts and massive deregulation having a positive impact.
These numbers are very, very sustainable. This isn't a one-time shot. I happen to think we're going to do extraordinarily well in our next report, next quarter. I think it's going to be outstanding.
But take a closer look at today's numbers and you see some shadows. Exports are way up, but that's partly because businesses and farmers raced to sell their goods and crops before China imposed tariffs in Trump's trade war. Soybean exports, for example, soared more than 50%. Farmers like John Keebler in Illinois now worried about what comes next.
I have to try to make do with less expenses. I want to save as much money as possible because I am unsure about the future.
So despite today's rosy news, for many, it's still an uncertain economy.
All right, so let's get to Terry Moran live at the White House again tonight. And Terry, President Trump does promise this strong growth will be, quote, very sustainable. He also said it's not a one-time shot. But a lot's going to depend on the current trade tensions, the president's tariffs, and then the retaliation from our trading partners.
That's the big uncertainty right now, David. How long do these trade wars go on? How do they end? If President
Oh, I swear, it's almost like if you say Trump, everything freezes. I'm starting to believe that now. But okay, so basically, guys, for all those that can see this, oh, no sound. Can you hear me? Yes? No? Can you hear me now? Say something. Do I got sound? Do I have sound? Faja, can you hear me? Papa, can you see me? Okay, so I'm going to assume that's a yes or no, but if so, I'm going to keep going. So basically, guys, if you for the trade deficit, the reason why I want to show that story is because it's either good news or bad news. And technically, it's good news, but it's really not good news. Because the reason why I say that, and it's just like I said in the video, yeah, this is GDP growth since 2014. Here's the one problem with that. President Obama hit that mark at least 3 times during the first term of his presidency. At least 2 times during 2008. And I want to say almost 2 times during 2010. So again, Trump causing his own issues and then turn around and, saying, well, look what I did. I get the GDP back up to 4%. That's the highest we've ever been since I took office. Yeah, since you took office. That's like saying I started a fire. I'm not going to say I started the fire, but let me go get the fire truck, throw on the hat, show up, put the water out and say, take the water, put the fire out and say, yes, I did it because I'm here. I solved the problem, but you also caused it. And the reason why I said that that's why I say I can't say good news for all those that, when it comes to deficits, when it comes to trade deficits, again, well, these deficits are basically taxes that they put on imported goods. So all the crap that we get from other countries have taxes on it. All the things that we send out have taxes on it. And if taxes are put on these things, or if they're raised, then the prices of those goods and services get raised because, like I said, yay, capitalism. So the reason why it's not an exact victory is because, like I said, with idiot Trump putting so many tariffs and raising them, and other countries in retaliation putting tariffs on our goods and services, means that once those tariffs go into effect, it is more than likely going to wreck the economy. As has been said by every economist out there, there is no upside to this unless those tariffs are removed. And that's the thing about it, where people and I say this because this is one of those stories to where they're not said that much, but I wish they were, because if you understand that the price of everything, your gas, your food, electronics, your cellular, everything and anything is bound to go up, especially if it's imported goods. And we're not even getting close to fruit, because like I said, farmers who are getting this bailout are they going to be the ones that hear, farmers, American steel workers, factories that are being closed down and moved overseas. Those are all the first impacted victims of tariffs. They haven't even got to us yet, but trust me, if they stay in effect, they will. So that's why I'm saying this whole thing about, the market, businesses investing and whatnot is really bullshit, because they're trying to beat a deadline. And as long as you get under that deadline, you're fine. But the moment that clock runs out, reality sets in, and that's where I think the economy, because history has shown us, and I've told people, you can argue with this. I would like to see you try, but history has shown us is that when you turn around, Democrats have always recovered the economy. Republicans have always trashed it. And like I said, show me, and I argue this with people, show me a historical period in the U.S. presidency where a Democrat had tanked the economy instead of making it better. Because history has always proven to us, whenever Republicans in office, goodbye economy, hello recession or depression or in between. But again, so the last story that I'm going to talk about is education. And if anybody knows that I've talked about Betsy DeVos basically purchased her job. And what she has decided to come up with next, as far as schools go, because you would have to be blind not to know the rash of school shootings that has happened. I mean, from kids bringing guns to school, from gunmen being on school property, to just utter destruction because we have a lackluster Congress that chooses to do nothing about weapons and how to get them, because these school shootings were not done by illegal firearms. They weren't. They were done by firearms that were accessible to kids, because the simple fact of the matter is sometimes there's not a rule protecting those kids from getting them, and sometimes there's not parents that are preventing those kids from getting to them. But with that being said, idiot-in-law Betsy DeVos has decided that she wants to include this little number.
But classrooms could now come equipped with something you might not expect. According to a New York Times report, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is considering allowing states to use federal funding to buy guns for school teachers. A school safety bill Congress passed in March allocated $50 million a year to local school districts, but the bill explicitly prohibited federal funds for firearms. The Education Department is instead looking to use the program in the federal education law called the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grants, which says nothing about prohibiting gun purchases, leaving it to the discretion of DeVos to approve any plans for firearms and firearms training. Let's bring in Ben White once again, Noel Nickpour, Robert Bianchi. So I know, Noel, you've supported an NRA plan called the School Shield Program, and you think they should pay for that program, obviously. Is it right to be using federal funds for this?
Well, I think that it would be better if the NRA would, I think they'd make a lot of people happy, maybe make a lot of people more sympathetic to what the NRA really does and what they stand for, if they would implement that Safety Shield program again, to where, they would, let's just say they put a security guard, or they would do something like that. And you have to defend yourself from these school shootings. Look, gun control, not gun control, whether you're for it or against it, you've got to do something, because they are unarmed. That they are using desks and safe rooms as their only alternative to protect from a crazy
but
shooter.
is that the only alternative, Ben? You have a gun, or there's no other way to protect yourself?
No, of course there are other alternatives to trying to keep guns out of the hands of crazy people who come in and shoot up schools. So, but I think when it comes to Betsy DeVos and this program, Congress has been pretty clear in its intent that it doesn't want federal funds used to arm teachers. In this specific program, that language isn't there, but in this program, the money is supposed to be spent on school enrichment programs for kids, programs to improve education. It's not supposed to be spent to put AK-47s in the hands of teachers. Teachers don't want them.
Why can't Homeland Security take this over? Why is this the Department of Education? Why does Betsy DeVos have the burden of having to do gun control? Why isn't Homeland Security?
Well, it's not gun control. Let's not. But Robert, I know that you think teachers should be armed under certain circumstances, and you have some background on this. You were chief law enforcement officer for 44 police agencies, where you set policies for officers and schools. For people who are against this, for teachers, and I've heard a lot of them, I've covered far too many of these school shootings, who want to spend their time, their talent, their energy on teaching children What do you say to that?
I've listened to all the arguments. I get it. There's no perfect solution here, but the bottom line is our kids are soft targets. These schools cannot be properly secured. I've gone out and literally evaluated them, and more this happens. You have a perimeter around these kids. There has to be something done to interdict. It's like the bank robbery scenario. Why do they rob banks? Because they know there's no guns, and they know there's not going to be any violence, and they can get in and they can get out. I'm sorry to say, with the proper protocols, most of the law enforcement officers I talk to,
and do you have to put a law in place that there's no liability for the teacher? Because I can tell you, and you know this, most law enforcement officers on the job never discharge a firearm.
That's right.
So as a teacher, and you've got a classroom of 20 or 30 or 40 kids, and you have to get it right. Really?
Well, the training has to be done exactly as it would be for the law enforcement officers.
Police are trained, and they're trained on a regular basis.
And they should train, that's the point. It has to be properly trained on a regular basis, exactly as the cops do, about use of force. I'm not saying that it's a great thing to do, but we can't allow our kids to be subjected to be shotting up like this. And you know what we have to do as law enforcement people, Chris? We got to come to the scene with body bags, because we have no opportunity at that time to do anything because we're not proactive. I'm sorry to say.
It's just hard to believe we get to the point in this country where the alternative is to put the guns in the hands of teachers who have no idea how to use them, who don't want to use them. I have kids in schools. I do not want my teachers having guns in their drawers. I will when they have a security guard who has a gun.
The security guard came up to all the exits. We've done all that. We've done all the target hard analysis.
You're saying the answer in this country right now is to put guns in the hands of teachers?
I'm telling you, as a guy who really did it for a living, it is impossible to secure the schools so that there can't be ingress here, period, end of story. And I'm not saying I like it, but it needs to be done.
I'm going to make one more point that you can take for what it's worth. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, the average teacher, out of their own pocket, and they're not getting rich being a teacher, spends $479 to help kids get school supplies. So we're talking about not taking money to make sure that a kid has a pencil or a notebook or a book.
That's why another department needs to fund it, Homeland Security.
Coming.
Okay, so, Betsy is a bad bet. Oh, she's beyond a bad bet gone. Angie, America's on an episode of Punk'd. I think America right now is on the worst acid trip this side of the 60s with this administration. So it amazes me so, because this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time that has been brought up about arming teachers. And here's what I disagree with, aside from everybody except the one guy who was really making sense, is where you tell a teacher, first of all, these are educators who have one of the most important jobs in our country, which is basically teaching our youth. They're already underfunded, underpaid, overwhelmed, in schools with overcrowded classrooms with kids that they can't already get to, who may have many different learning challenges. And on top of that, you're expecting the teacher now to play RoboCop? Let me get this straight. You took federal funding from educators, but you'll find money to educate them on how to use guns. Sounds like what amazes me so is that you won't give them books or funding or more schools or smaller classrooms or updated textbooks or new ways of technology as far as computers, tablets go, but you'll give them guns. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Nothing makes me feel more secure than the teacher that just may on a really bad day decide that he wants to brandish his firearm and like, okay, somebody's gonna read page 48. Somebody's gonna read page 48 today. What about you, Brian? You been asleep the whole day, Brian. I'm gonna need you to wake up right now, or me and Mr. Smith and West is gonna have a problem. I'm not saying it's beyond the realm of possibility, because you're expecting a teacher to protect. Now, don't get me wrong. Teachers do everything. Educators do everything they can for their children, for the children they teach. Understandably so. But you cannot put a firearm in an environment with children, because that is like putting a match and a vat of kerosene surrounded by dynamite. It only takes one bad decision. And on top of that, what if the teacher's incapacitated? Now you have a firearm. Now you have a firearm that a child can get to. And the other person, well, why don't we let the Department of Homeland Security do it? Right. The Department of Homeland Security, who did such a wonderful job of separating 2,000 plus children from immigrant parents and now cannot put them back together. We should trust them to now arm teachers. And I love the fact that where the guy turns around and sits there and says, well, we could give them the same type of training that law enforcement officers have. Okay. You do realize officers are shooting people that are unarmed. Now, I'm not saying all officers do it, but doggone it, every officer that sees my skin color sees me as a target. So you're telling me that you want to give teachers the same training as these officers? If that's the case, I should avoid every school I go to. I might get shot on sight. But again, it annoys me so. It annoys me so to where I sit there and I'm just like, your whole idea of facing guns is not to, I don't know, actually have studies on mental issues holding guns, actually enforcing gun. Sorry, guys. But actually enforcing gun laws. And like I said, I know we didn't mention Trump this time, but yet the screen still froze. I apologize. But it just gets to the point to where how do we get this far is what it really is. Because we always think that the answer to fighting gun violence is to present guns there. And here's the thing that I just don't get. You won't pay an educator what they need to be successful at their position, but you'll give them a gun. So that tells me that you're not investing in education. You're investing in the aftermath. Because let's be honest, if you looked at every school shooting and every time gun control got bought up, gun profits soared. Bass Pro Shops, Carhartt, every place that sold firearms made a killing because, again, people stock up. They keep thinking that this registry is going to show up to where if you buy a gun, all your information is going to be on this database and the government has it. And that's the fear, which amazes me so because, like I said, me being in Tennessee, I cannot tell you that if you go to a gun trade and knife show with ID and just money, no background checks are done. Call me out. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you don't go to Bill Goodman's gun trade and knife show in Tennessee, whether it's in Nashville, Knoxville, Pikeville, or in Memphis. You tell me that you can't go to that spot with money and an ID and tell me you can't buy a gun and no background check is done. Call me. If you think I'm wrong, please call me out on it. If you're watching this live on the replay, because I know a lot of people watch this live, hi LaRonda for also watching too. But if I'm wrong, please point it out to me because I can see off the bat. As a kid growing up and going to those gun shows, all it was money and ID, and they just look to see if you're over 21. As long as you're over 21, here you go. And the funny part is state troopers and law enforcement are at these gun trade night shows, and they will never stop you. You could walk out, here's the thing. I'll never forget this last gun trade night show I went to was almost 4 years ago. And I kid you not, old boy had bought a nice little Winchester rifle over his shoulder. You're supposed to have them in gun cases, by the way, for all those that don't know. When you go to these gun trade knife shows, you're supposed to have these in cases when you leave for safety. And your ammo should be locked in an ammo box, which actually has to be master locked. So you can't leave the premises with live ammo unless it's in a lockbox and it has to be secured. At the same time, your gun has to be in a gun case, or if it's not in a gun case, has to be secured with a gun tag and a lock. When I tell you that old boy had this over his shoulder walking out, no tag, no nothing. Past the cops, didn't stop him. And again, the reason why I know he didn't have a background check, I was right behind him when it went down. That guy just looked at him and said, yeah, you're legal. Here's your money. Here you go. Happy hunting. But the thing about this is right, we're going back to educators. You can't expect teachers to play bodyguards. It's not their role. Their role is to allow individuality and learning to happen. A gun to me means there's a constant threat. It never, and I'm a gun owner. Just don't be wrong on that. It never feels safe to be around somebody who has a firearm out, because to me it always seems like they're always looking for something to go down. Now, don't get me wrong, not all gun owners like that. Some gun owners go through extensive training, go through a lot of discipline courses because they want to make sure that they're on the up and up. They're doing everything they're supposed to do. Some even get liability insurance just to make sure shit like this doesn't happen. But again, you're expecting Department of Homeland Security, who can't put immigrant children back together with their families, to come in and support this. No. In the same sense that instead of, actually having mental health checks for those who own guns, have mental health issues, to let the CDC have this study, because the NRA lobbied to make sure this didn't happen. In the same sense, the NRA has actually protected their donors from not being known, because the NRA did side with a Russian spy and then got Trump elected. But they always sit there and say well, we put up a fence and we put in fence and we put in metal detectors. Take it from somebody from schools in Tennessee. Some schools don't have metal detectors. Some schools are so easy to walk in that by the time you walk in, you're in the front part of the school. There's not that many doors to stop you from getting from one point to another. And the resource officer usually is some off-duty police cop who 9 times out of 10 isn't armed. But then again, they're in these schools where it's one resource officer for every 100 to 200 kids, or less than that. More if it's at a high school, especially a high school in an urban area, to where that school is overcrowded. So again, it is amazing to me how you look over the fact that schools are underfunded, overcrowded, teachers are not paid enough, not giving everything they need as far as supplies and assistance goes. You're not making sure these children have a quality education in buildings that are not properly maintenance, with plumbing that needs to be replaced, with electricity needs to be rewired, with books that need to be replaced. But you would rather arm the teachers or put in armed police or let a federal department take over the arming of Department of Education, simply put by a woman who does not know education at all. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, which makes me worry about education as a whole, because what are we teaching our children? That above all else, violence solves everything? Or the simple fact of the matter is that an informed society needs to step in and start making the decisions and changes that actually curbs the violence? Because what they're not saying, as far as all these school shootings that have happened, none of these school shootings were done by weapons that were purchased legally. They were purchased legally. Kids who have parents who had taught them to use those weapons, and the kids had access to those weapons, are the reason why those kids and adults were able to go do what they wanted to do. It wasn't because they purchased them illegally. Some of them even had their guns taken away from them, and yet given right back to them by their parents, or we're taught how to use it. It makes no sense to sit there and say that gun laws don't change anything. Having more gun laws will not curb the violence. Really? What else have you tried that's worked? Because last time I checked, every time the whole idea of mental studies are being made, and every time froze up again. So it when they sit there and say that that the simple fact of the matter is that nothing works is a flat out fucking lie. They just choose not to do it because the reason why they refuse to do it is because somebody's actual paycheck is going to get affected down the line. That is the only reason why they choose not to do that. Oh, hi, Chris, man. Thanks, Chris, for watching as well, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. I was kind of on a roll and screen kind of froze because apparently Trump doesn't like truth. So the last thing that we're going to talk about tonight, like I said earlier, about Nate Boyer. Nate Boyer, if you don't know who he is, was the one that actually talked to Colin Kaepernick about actually taking the knee. So I find this interesting now is that he's actually come out with another video, and hopefully we'll get it to play. We hope. Try to get it to play at least. But he's basically actually, as I'm trying to get it to come up, because it is fighting me with everything it's got. Okay, well, we're not going to worry about that. But okay, so sorry guys. This is getting very interesting that every time I bring something up, it wants to freeze. Okay, so I think I got the video up now. So I want to show this video about, he gave an update on his view. So let's hope it plays. If not, just let me know if you don't get any sound.
The man that would burn an American flag right in front of my face. Do I like it? No. It still hurts me every time I see it, but those are still freedoms I fought for. What I heard the most was, hearing from men that I served with, guys, a fellow Green Berets. I had one that straight up said that you're a disgrace to the Green Berets, stop speaking for us. And like that, that really hurt. For me, and I think a lot of people that serve their country and fought for what that flag and the anthem are supposed to represent, it was pretty hurtful to see that because we didn't understand, I guess, where it was coming from. And so we met the next day down in San Diego and just talked about our own experiences, talked about why he's doing what he was doing. And by the end of the conversation, it was this point where he was like, do you have any other suggestions, or do you think there's another way I can do what I'm doing and still raise this awareness without hurting people like you? And that's when this conversation of kneeling besides sitting came about.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Oh man. Okay, guys. I saw that. I apologize. So it looks like Trump is just not gonna let us be great today. So basically what I want to show about the video is Nate Boyer is the actually individual that actually talked to Colin Kaepernick and actually got him to kneel. The reason why I wanted to play this video before it froze was that he finally, and I'm not saying he finally came around to it, but he's pretty much saying that people don't understand protest because protest is patriotic. So okay, sorry guys. So that part alone about Nate Boyer is the fact that he's now saying that that protests are patriotic because he is now coming around to understanding that. And that was the last thing that we're going to talk about today, was just that the reason about protests, and you see it now. I mean, I myself and many others and many of my friends and those that I know and even complete strangers are coming together for a cause because the cause is just now. And it's just like whether it's police brutality, injustice against minorities, the inequality gap, the income gap between bosses and workers, women's rights to choose. You can go down the list, but everybody has got that point that they stand on their line of the sand when pressed. And he understands as far as like I like to see when people, when they come together and they have this conversation, they see where protests are now. And when you see why a protest is protesting and you understand and you listen to them, at that point, it's like he understood. He understood exactly where Colin Kaepernick was coming from. It wasn't just, he doesn't get the whole thing about, well, it's about the flag and whatnot. Because again, fake patriotism. I mean, that's what I call it. It's fake patriotism to have that much faith in a flag, but yet you have no problem when it's on the back of when it's on the back of a truck or on the back of a woman's bikini, or it's being used as a skirt or being used as a blanket. You can't sit there and tell me to have respect for a flag when the very same person will turn around and treat it like it's a dish rag. That's not respect, because if you really want to be honest with it, that would make you pretty much a fucking hypocrite. And I'm not saying that all people are hypocrites. I am saying that it's misguided patriotism. It's the whole thing about it is like I told people, like I said before a long time ago. When I first started these podcasts, and I sat there and told one person on a Facebook post, I said, "So you're telling me," because they were very, again, no, then I will say anonymously, because they're not here to defend themselves. But I did point out, I was like, so you believe that every American should stand up for guys, I again apologize. I don't know. You know what? We still keep this going along. So sorry, guys. I know we're getting to the end of this, so just bear with me. But the thing about it is, which kills me about this, is just that when people protest, and what do you say, Vaughn? Waffles are better than pancakes. That's my line in the sand. I'm a pancake guy, so I'll shake hands across that line of saying you could go to Waffle House, I'll go to IHOP. We'll still get what we want. So, and LeRon, I'm starting to believe this. They don't want you to speak. Apparently so, because me and Vaughn, we think that Trump and people that control the ISPs are really fucking with us right now. But we still keep this train rolling. The thing about protest is, when you understand the reason why a person protests, you understand where they're coming from, which means you empathize, which means that you see the plight they are going through. At that point, that's where you can sit there and go, either I understand and I'm with you, or I understand, but I can't, I understand what you're going through. I can't be a part of it for reasons. And for those that literally look at the flag, and like I said, going back to the Facebook post where I said to the guy, I said, so you believe that Americans, when the flag is raised, should stand up, hands over their hearts, recite the national anthem, and all that good jazz. And he goes, well, yeah. I said, well, then how does that make you different from a Nazi? And he immediately, well, I'm not a Nazi. I said, well, you have to understand, Nazis were always standing. Nazis when the Third Reich was anthem was played, and Hitler and Hi Hitler and all that crap, they stood. Their whole idea of a fascist government was oppressing Germany and the outer rims. So why are you starting to believe? So if you under that mindset of that, when the flag is raised, you should do all this, and you believe that a person does not have the choice to not do it, that makes you no different than a Nazi. He got quiet, couldn't say anything because point is true. I always say, Vaughn, not misguided. I'm starting to believe they know, and Colin is just an excuse. Pox rebelling, persons with colors rebelling means the end of the privilege. Oh, well, I have to say misguided, because we say misguided because they try to sit there, and it is part of privilege too. You know, that is white privilege. White privilege is pretty much saying that you understand racism. And Tariq Nasheed said it best. Black people can't be racist, and white people don't have the option of calling what is racist. That's like saying you can't sit there and say what is destructive when you have been the one causing the destruction all this time. And Tariq Nasheed best said black we'll keep on rolling. We're gonna keep on rolling. So sorry guys, it's getting there. But again, it's just the whole thing of, like I said before, like William Bond's case. Yes, it is white privilege because they are trying to sit there and want us to understand because they say so. Their privilege gives them superiority. That is true. And if for any of those that don't say white privilege doesn't exist, you are really full of shit. But it's the whole thing about protests, and that's what we're gonna wrap it up on. It's just that I have learned, because I have always talked to a lot of people, and what I've gotten from this, and I've always said it best, I will always talk to someone, but my rule is it's just that when I have a debate or a conversation with someone, my rule has always been the same. I am willing to talk with you as long as you are willing to listen. Because when I talk, you listen, and when you talk, I listen. I am not about the whole thing of, because I'll tell you why. That's conversation. I believe once you build a rapport, then you can get into the nitty gritty of looking into a person's point of view and saying, well, why do you believe that? Or they will look at me and ask me, why do I believe that? I do believe that there has to be some era of respect as far as modern conversation goes, because lately it seems that people are just trying to out-talk or talk over somebody. And my thing is, if you can't honestly have a conversation where two people are talking, then at that point it's no problem. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll talk to me and people that want to sit there and keep hammering and keep hammering and keep hammering their point. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, so are you gonna let me talk, or are you going to sit there and keep hammering your point? And a lot of people always go, well, I'm just gonna I'm going to tell you what I believe because I think this is right. You know why I usually say in that situation? Pretty much, what's the point of talking to you? You didn't come here to talk. You came here to basically press your opinion on me until either I succumb to it or until I sit there and go, you know what, you're right. And nothing changes from that. When I usually tell people I want an informed, what I really hope for is an informed society. An informed society takes information and allows you to make your own decisions. But as a society, we move forward in making better choices because we have the information in front of us, and we go from there. We can't simply go off to the fact of the matter if someone is just keep on hammering their ideals on us and making it seem like a good idea, because that's how fascism is done. That's how oppression is done. In the same sense, and I'll be honest, and I'll say this for another day, Black slaves didn't know what Christianity was until Christianity was forced upon them. Tell me I'm wrong. because it's one of those things where I've always sat there and said it best. You can't go the route of challenging them. And I give it to Michelle Obama. I give it to the former First Lady, because she said it best. You can't go low. You got to go high. And trust me, as a guy who used to love taking the low route, because I have a petty bone in my body. I have a petty bone. And trust me, it sometimes gets me in more trouble than actually helpful. But the thing that I've learned from these protests, the things I learned from these conversations, is that both sides have to be willing to talk and listen. If they're not willing to talk and listen, nothing gets done. But at the same time, you can't talk with someone who is not willing to do the same with you. Plain and simple. Because you know why? Cap did it. Cap did it his way the entire time. Cap sat there. It's kind of funny where when Cap first started, not to go back to him, but to use him as a great example, when Cap first started talking about the injustices and things of that nature that are happening with this country, how many people, aside from Nate Boyer, actually sat down and talked to him? Think about that. How many people actually sat down with a person who was willing to talk to them about some very uncomfortable subjects, but they didn't want to listen? Nate Boyer did. A former Green Beret listened to a former NFL player turned activist to hear him out about the issues that he's facing. A white man asking a black man about the world he's in, and he understands. Crazy, right? It can happen. It can be done, and it can happen. But at the same time, there has to be that. There has to be that openness on both ends. Like I always said it best, I don't mind talking to an all lives matter or black police lives matter person. Now, do I think it'll get very far? Probably not, just because of the fact of the matter is that I've said many a times on this show and on my Offloads podcast show that all lives matter and police lives matter are both bullshit. Because if both of them truly meant what they said, then they would be at every police shooting that involved a black life, not just a white life. So I understand that I say that, but would I still be willing to talk to someone who has that belief or that mindset? Yes, because like I said, there may be common ground that can be found within that and then go from there. But that's all I have for today. I apologize, guys, for the multiple camera freezes and restarts. I'm just going to assume Trump was listening. So if no one sees me tomorrow, you know what the fuck happened. But before I go, some shameless plugging. Thank you for everybody who's watching. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, LaRonda. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Chris. For all those watching live and also on the playback, you can still respond to this because, like I said, I want to hear other people's opinions. I want to have these discussions. These are discussions, even though these are uncomfortable subjects, these are the uncomfortable subjects that need to be talked about. And they need to find common ground with. It doesn't always have to be a black person. I always say it best. I actually have some, and the funny part is some people always want to talk to me after the podcast. It's completely fine. I would rather, my preference is talk to me when you actually have a group. But if you don't feel so inclined or you feel skittish about doing it, okay. But you have to start somewhere. But another thing about us is, like I said before, getting back to the people, like I said, with my other person there, Vaughn, Big Young BZA Dot also has his own shows. Excuse me. He also has, I get that reference, VSTs, which is basically, VST is a 30-second clip about various news about video games, things of that nature. He also has Rhythm This, you can reminisce over the rhythm, where he goes over certain albums to a 4-tier system to where he gives opinions on things. And like I said, as of him being he never says he's a music critic, but I personally believe he is because he has such great insight on what he looks at. And I know sometimes, like I said, musical taste differ, but it's always nice to have that conversation about music because you never know what you might miss out on because someone else may point it out to you. That's where he comes in. Musical genius, the Kyle Bach of musical geniuses. But aside from Rhythm This, he does have the Rhythm as Fuck with Uncle VZ, where he basically is, like I said, it's random as shit, where he'll come up with videos or topics. Again, all this is interactive, just like my show, in which anything and everything is almost up for grabs and things of that nature. And also, and also our other friend Trace, who actually has a show called The Bump Down, which both Rhythm This and The Bump Down were playing about yesterday, where my friend Trace actually has his show. It's also a musical show where he goes over what's hot and what's not, what's on the charts, and what's happening in the mainstream and underground, things of that nature, which recently, due to a rapper in Tennessee, he may have some interesting content. And thank you, Mom, for posting that in the Facebook groups. Now, this all along can be found in the group I Get That Reference. So what is I Get That Reference by any chance? If you're not a part of this group, and you're watching this on Facebook, obviously, if you go in the search bar and type in I Get That Reference, we should, thanks to Facebook Analytics, be the first one to come up. We should be the only group to come up. Again, this group is for all. This group is for all. Again, this group is for all. It doesn't have to be blurry. You don't have to be black. You be black, white, skin, polka dot. We don't give a shit. The only rule that we have is that you participate and you active, which means you put in posts, you respond to posts, you ask conversation, you talk to people. Simply put, all we ask for you to do on Facebook is to be social. That's what the site is designed for in the first place. So it's easy to join. Like I said, post up. You can see all of our shows there, along with this show about how the Frack We Got Here, which I usually do every Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. And also my other podcast of Off Limits, where nothing is off limits, which usually happens every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And yeah, you're exactly right, Vaughn. Which I hope to say, which I said, I'm hoping on Vaughn and Trace to be up here. I think the plan is that you guys are still coming up here. I do have a very, very wonderful topic for Off Limits that I think will be interesting and might offend some people, but then again, that's the reason why we call Off Limits. So yeah, and also I think Tavon, you said you want to do Bump Down with me, you, and Trace, which I think that's still doable because yeah, it'll be Saturday, so we'll work all that out. But again, all of our shows are all of our podcasts are on the I Get That Reference page. So if you're not a fan of it, please join us. And also on YouTube, if you look up I Get That Reference, if you look up the Off Limits podcast, if you look up how the Frack We Got Here podcast, they're all available on YouTube. Every podcast that we've done so far is available to view there, so you can like, you can subscribe, you can share to your friends. Because, like I said, we're just trying to grow a community to, like I said, it's a village mentality. We're all trying to come together and do something different, which is what is different from the mainstream that's already out there. And cool. So, yeah, we're going to be so, yeah, Vaughn, if we all work that out, we'll be doing a bump down all together, which I hope we'll be able to do, and a random ass fuck. So that's going to be a busy ass Saturday. But again, completely okay with that. So before I go again, guys, thank you for sticking through this. I know it was a lot to go through with the camera freezes and whatnot. I'm waiting for new equipment to show up, so I can't wait for that. But aside from that, guys, the reason why we have, aside from how the Frack We Got Here, it's not just political. It's not just about, the craziness of this world we call life. It is also looking at the fact of where we are as a society and how we can be better. Because that's what a society is for. A society that we should be for the betterment. Even with all the abilities, technologies, and things in front of us, we should always try to be better. So the only way we can be better is to be an informed society. An informed society can make a hell of a lot better choices than a society that depends on a person. Because in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. But the problem is everybody still can't see shit in front of them. So with that being said, guys, this has been how the Frack We Got Here, not the Frack how you got here. I apologize. So this has been how the Frack We Got Here. I've been your host, Will Buchanan. Thank you guys for all hanging around with me tonight. Hope that you have a very wonderful weekend and look forward to y'all with this podcast. But until then, peace.